I thought there would be a very interesting way to get people of different ages, different backgrounds, different artistic abilities to all work together for a cultural thing that could also be a good lead into tourists learning more about.
So the float is coming from somewhere to here.
No, it's being built here,
It's being made in here.
The float is built here
It's
and going out.
built in here, exactly.
It's sending floats out.
Exactly. So this whole sort of direction that's created here is
Well,
so
how
that.
does it get out the door?
Well, it's a really big door.
Oh.
It's 15 feet tall, actually. So and the area inside is the whole big area, so there's a lot of room for it to be.
So that's the float making.
Yes, and sort of my visualization of how this would work is sort of, take however many months to make the float, and on the day that it's, unveiled, people would come and sit along here, and this is a cafe. Cheer and watch, and it'd be, they'd all come out, and they'd, go up North Street, down Hanover, and come back around, and this is actually sort of a graveyard for old old floats.
To send something out from here into the world and have then people drawn back to it.
Exactly.
Right?
So, I mean...
Can you eat here?
Yes, I was just about to explain.
And you can see a movie, Jack.
And you can see a movie, yes.
Right.
You do a lot. So I was imagining tourists are generally walking from Government Center, Quincy Market type areas, so they'd find themselves on this ramp going up to my building. The sidewalk sort of merges gently,
Right.
so they'd be in there no matter what.
Little Carpenter Center.
Yes,
trick,
exactly.
Yeah.
And they'd find themselves on this first floor. Well, actually, it leads them up to here, which is the museum. So right in here is sort of a museum. And they can look directly into the float-making area. Museum about the float-making, just general North End culture, the arts. And so they could walk actually through where the floats are being made and look down and watch, and come into more museum, which is then connected to the movie theater, and they can go watch Italian cinema, for example. And for the people of the North End, they're sort of coming more from this direction, I imagined, and be led into this building, which is where there's the wood shops and the metal shops and whatever.
Metal shop, right.
Which all open out into the float
into
building
the
area.
float building areas. And you can continue upstairs past the museum to the third floor, where there's sort of a couple smaller workshop areas for people who, just want to build their own thing, not necessarily for the float. And then on top of the theater on the third floor, there's the cafe onto this balcony area right in here, exactly. And then we have little garden areas. I was trying to, as Sarah probably told you, there's a lack of light in this area. So
It's a shaded garden.
it's, well, I incorporated some water. I was hoping maybe that would help. I also, the siding for the arts building was actually sort of the reflecting glass. I don't know exactly what it's called. So you wouldn't be able to see it, but it would hopefully be reflecting the light that actually appears. So this wood here is actually glass. And how these came about. Actually, I don't quite know how these exact ones came about. I knew I wanted to, to capture the light that came in. I wanted it to be sort of show that something was special was happening in here. And they're made of translucent material, some copper. They're obviously hung off the building.
So it seems like they were coming out of this building.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, even in my junk model, you can see I was playing with sort of direction of the tourist, direction of the North End, something somewhat normal, and then something happening. So
that's not quite as coherent, confluent as this flow.
Right.
Yeah.
This one has something happening, and this one has something coming out of the building.
Right.
Yes.
Now, this, on the other hand, seems to be coming out of this building like this.
Right.
To me. That's what you're doing now.
Right. Yes.
And then there's this fellow who didn't make it but went a long way.
Yes. Him, I was actually trying to connect to this street because I was imagining floats coming out and
Trying
going
to
to
get to
Hanover.
there.
Or if not, they could just come out and go up North Street. But
It would have been fun to have it do that.
turn the corner.
Well, to enter there.
Yeah. I don't know. I kept debating.
The cafe thing would be a better draw for people to drop in and just have a cup of coffee or see somebody in the thing if we're down
and
there
down
on
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Or we're down in here or something.
Yeah.
I think the street level might be a terrific attractor, and then get tables out onto the
So there.
space.
Right out here.
Yeah.
Maybe right there. Yeah.
Yeah. My initial just,
Yeah.
I was trying to connect art store. What do they need? They need supplies.
Right.
Well, maybe the
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
the art stores up here
Yeah,
that you bring
so
people through the whole.
Yeah.
Or sell food and art supplies.
I also like the fact that you have, as Jack has described it, established a very clear relationship to this thing and to this thing. So you've connected yourself to the context. I think you could have connected yourself even more strongly if you had expressed what is there, which we've seen over there as being a dam, and then you could have either related to it or decided not to relate to it. But here I don't know. It's just coming up to the wall and stopping.
Right.
Could those carry through into whatever this
Into-
is, or
okay.
how is that? How is this
Penetrate
thing?
through the slots.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
How is this thing generating that thing? Where's this coming
Good,
from?
good. That configuration and then this would be a wonderful connection. Like that.
Yeah, that's true. I totally ignored what the
And this seems okay to me. I can imagine this stuff being much like this stuff.
right.
Is that a shop at the bottom here, or
This is just a townhouse.
just a what?
A townhouse.
It's
It's
a
a
house.
4-story.
An apartment. Yeah.
Nothing.
This just as a kind of small comment. Sometimes you can make spaces and they're wonderful, and that is, I really like it. But sometimes you have elements that come together and make a space which I don't like to think about. I don't like to think about the space that's just under there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was hoping, I don't know, because initially I wanted, this plane to be for the artists that are working in here, and this plane to be for the tourists that are coming out of the movie theater, the cafe.
I'm just talking about the
Yeah,
2-foot
no,
high space.
yeah,
that's-
exactly. That's one of the
Which
problem
only
areas.
armadillos might be in. Or something.
Yeah.
Well, I think what you've called attention to, Jack, is her intention of sort of identifying what's tourist space and what is
Good.
native space, and I think that's good. But I think I wish there was some way that there was a happier way to mingle.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Mingle them.
Yeah, I mean, the simple solution I was thinking about was just, the steps up to this one, and you can go across them both. But I just sort of left it as something further to explore. Initially, there was a greater separation, but just in terms of how heights worked out within the floors, and this was getting too high, and that was getting too short,
right,
so that's how it
yeah.
ended up. But yeah.
I love this thing. It's terrific. When you see this now from here and with its wonderful richness of form, this seems a little bit modest. It hasn't had quite the level of invention
Yeah.
that this has.
But that might be okay.
Might be okay.
It's kind of like here. This is the modest brother, and this is the poor sister, and this is the.
Yeah, I mean, my intention was that you walk along, you don't quite know what you're getting into. I mean, you're, surprised when you get to this side. And the same thing that sort of is part of the whole,
It's restoring
existing.
the connection of this.
Yeah, fabric, and then it goes into something a little.
Probably prudent.
I think that's believable. I'm not sure. If I was doing that, I might make it a little more like that. But maybe not. Maybe not.
The connection between this building and this building, in terms of circulation, was also very awkward at first, especially because I was keeping it the square and the rectangles. so then until I finally extended this one to sort of not match, but relate back to this one better, to the connection. In terms of
Could you tell me why this is yellow and this is not?
That's a good question. That's simply because it fell off
Oh,
on the transport over.
okay. So
Yes.
this
So yes,
would be
this would
yellow.
be-
The
right.
yellow represents what's indoors.
Inside, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just make a couple of comments on your drawings?
Yes, please.
They're clear. I can understand them and read them. But I think that they could be much more alive.
This one I just didn't have time.
Well, I'm sure it's time in every case. I like beginning to see people here and
Yeah.
cars and understanding that. But why don't I see people in the plans and more plants and pavements?
This is the end of a semester, but it's really the slice of life of 12 weeks or so. And it's about architecture, but it's also just about living. And before you guys all say something, I just want to say I'm very proud of these people. They have come a long ways. Some very exciting work here. But as I said earlier, particularly in these times, what I find the most exciting thing is that they're good citizens of the world. They're sensitive to each other, and they've been a group. If you go into that studio, it vibrates, not only with beetles, but with activity and energy. And that's a lot. And I think it's terrific at this time in the world that we have that, because that's the future. So I'm just asking if the members who have reviewed today would join me in applauding the future. This is the time of the year that I give out some awards. And these awards that I give out are going to become more and more important as the years go by, because they're rapidly becoming antiques. And I will give them out forever. There are 3 awards that is given out each year. There is the 314 Pencil Lead Award, which is given to students who have drawn a lot, drawn well, beautifully, etc. There is the X-Acto Knife Aluminum Award, who's given to students who have cut up a lot of things, or cut their fingers, or done an outstanding job. And there's the Yellow Trace, this is not right, by the way, there's the Yellow Trace, this is buff, Yellow Trace Golden Trace Award for a student who's used the most paper and has drawn the most. This year was very difficult because there were so many people that I split the awards. And so for the first award, which is the Lead Pencil Award, it goes to 2 people this year, and that is Stephanie and Kelly Gibson. There's Kelly. And the aluminum award, and there's 2 of those this year, and they go, one is obvious, right? Goes to Philip and the other one to Laya. And the Gold Trace Award this year, there are 2 of those also, and they go to Joyce and Sarah. Here. As some of you may know, it's also the time of the year that I do something that I've started 3 or 4 years ago, which I love to do. I give a donation to the library, which I love because I don't have to fill out any forms. I don't have to do any POs. I don't have to talk to anybody. I just have to write a check and call up this great librarian. And I say, downstairs, I say, what's your best new book? And he tells me. And I buy 2 copies, one which is in the library. I think this is the 4th year that I may have done this, 5th year, I'm not sure. And the other one is given to someone. And the reason for that is that our community, this architectural community, is made up of the faculty, it's made up of the students, but it's also made up of the people that are in this room who are reviewing. And without them, we wouldn't be a better place. It's part of our community. It's a very precious thing that we have, this coming together of outside practitioners, other teachers, and our own teachers. It's a wonderful thing. And the best you can get is a parking ticket, of which Hetty just told me she probably got. And it's outrageous that MIT can't do better than that. But it's very, very important for the education of people to hear your voices. And so each year there's a book, and there's a front piece, and there's one in the library, and this is another one. And this one reads this year, presented with appreciation to Steve Emmerich, who over the years has served as a visiting critic to the studio of Jan Wampler. December. Thank you. You got That's why I asked you for a favor if you would stay with me. So he has to go. So. Well, if people have some remarks that they'd like to say, I think the students are still awake. Philip, are you awake? Yes, you are. We'd like to hear.
The thing that I thought was the most fun was that the progress from the very early, the first review, to now has been really incredible to see, because people have made great strides taking the original ideas in very abstract forms and things that really didn't have that many constraints, to a project that really was quite mindful of the programmatic elements that needed to happen, but mostly we're not bound by that in a way that it really made the forms enslaved by that, which often happens when people get too involved with the program. And I thought the freshness of that first exercise really carried through to this last piece, which I think is really wonderful. So I applaud students for being able to stick with that. It was hard work, but it was really, I think, well worth it.
Yeah, I was particularly impressed with the jump models. I thought that they, in many instances, sort of emerged from the students' intuition or synthesis of the issues that come to bear on a problem like this. And so it's a very empowering device. I think what I saw a number of times was when they moved on from the jump model to architecture and building. It started to become like a building, as a building might be perceived. And I think these jump models were so realizable as architecture at the end of the day that it's very reassuring and comforting to me that there's that sensitivity, that you don't have the ability to maybe transform it at this stage of the game or to represent it in 2 dimensions, but your responses were extremely sensitive, and within those models resided the power of architecture. With time, you'll be able to really take these kinds of sensitive responses and develop a really, really strong architecture. So I found that to be very reassuring, and as pedagogically, I've never seen these jump models before, but I think they're just very, very powerful at this level. They should be used at every level, but at this level in particular, when the students don't have the means to really communicate visually, it's very exciting.
It reminds me that I will never show my level 1 work to anyone, the work that we see here.
I find that this chunk model process, which is
I think one of the most interesting things for me this semester has been the program and the sort of open-ended nature of it. I think one of the strengths of that is that it's enabled some of you to latch on to things which may seem outlandish at the get-go, but they're things that you're really personally invested in. And it's led to you getting very excited about your project and developing some really terrific things. I think for some of you, the open-ended nature of it might have been something of a trap. And then we got some programs that were a little all over the map or too complex or just too much going on. It's nice in that we wind up with a room of very, very different projects sort of serving, whose programs on the very specific level are quite different. It's interesting, the thing that unites them all is sort of the values that you lay out in the beginning, which is that it's in the community, it's of the community, it's a place to pull people together. It is fun to see that worked out and explored in so many different directions, both in the specificity of what goes on there and how they're built and in the form that they take. Really tremendous work throughout. One of the very best studios I've seen. You all should be very proud.
I'd just like to echo the diversity of projects, given the same site, and the same sort of constraints, was quite wonderful to see. I've seen those on the other sites, and you choose different rooftops, and you get different solutions because of those locations, and you realize what it means to be in different places. But being in the same place and then choosing something that is hopefully a passion of yours or an interest of yours, is something that you begin to see as being necessary for the North End. Leads to those different solutions, and the diversity of that makes it very rich because you can learn from each other's kind of different explorations. I think if we've worked and looked at each other's stuff and presented each other's work at different levels, that can only sort of enrich this process, which I think is terrific.
I mean, I just want to support the assemblage models. Consistently, it was the genesis of form in almost every project. And you could see it in that model, and that's where the formal work began. And, you know, you say they got tempered down as they became buildings, but in the spectrum of where they could have started and where they could have ended, I think that assemblage model started them onto a path that, you know, was very diverse solutions, and the program drove it, but the actual method of working based on interaction with pieces and then gathering them and assembling them yielded just a huge array of work that is eminently buildable, unbelievably executed model. I mean, the work is, you know, for 8 weeks is a lot of work. But it was a very strong path formally that started from these pretty sketch models compared to other formal ways of working. It really stands out in the result.
This is by far the favorite part of the class for me, is getting to talk to all these new people, and it's always kind of ironic because the times when I most want to run back in and I have all these new ideas, like project's over, it's always kind of sad and almost a wrong way to approach things. I don't know, but this is like, now I want to run back and I have all these new ideas and I have all these new perspectives on the same problem, and I find it so helpful and so nice to be able to talk to so many of you from different backgrounds that you come from, and to be able to get that kind of feedback. And I really appreciate that, and it helps me a lot to see, you look at the same thing every day, and you get into a mode where you only see it in one way, and to be able to talk to so many of you just helps me to see it in so many different lights, and I find that really helpful. So I just want to thank all of you, because I really do appreciate the time that you take to come and talk to all of us.
So would the students join me in applauding the reviewers? Well, I'm going to miss all you guys. I would like to take you all to Berkeley with me, and also all the reviewers. The whole team, let's just go. It's warmer, and it's nicer climate, and beautiful campus. We could have a great time. What's that? And I'm sad at leaving. And of course, I have my usual fret. I haven't given the grades out yet, so I may give you all incomplete so we can continue in Berkeley. It's been a great studio. I really have. All of you have become very real. You're all very, very strong people. And again, I just want to say thank you. It means a lot to me.